Tim Grant, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
Appreciate you giving me your time, bud. Jump into your career, mate. Start off with, you played 196 first grade games, mate. Spread over a couple of clubs. You got to represent the city, Prime Minister's 11, NRL All Stars, and New South Wales. Is there anything that you've taken out of your professional career, excuse me, that's made you into the better man, father, husband that you are today?
Yeah, I think I'm not a father or husband as of yet, but maybe sometime soon. But mate, I to be honest, hand on my heart, I think the game of rugby league for the person I am today, the challenges that I overcame, the great times I had, the highs, the lows, the whole journey, mate. I think it makes me who I am today. I feel like today I'm a better person for rugby league. It taught me how to be healthy. It taught me how to work hard to try and get something that you want. And along the way, I've met so many great people, not just the fans and sponsors like that, but good men and good fathers, that were my coaches, teammates, that sort of stuff. So, mate, along the journey, I've learned so much of so many people. And like I said, I thank rugby league for everything that I've got. Yeah,
no, that's great response, mate. I think a lot of these players, players like yourself that are retired now, that they are very grateful for their careers, and it's something that these young kids look up to and want to know how it helps them in later in life. Some people just sit there and they go, "Oh, they're just footballers. They don't know what to do once they're retired." But the stuff that you go through helps in life. The setbacks, the ups and downs that you go through, I think it helps with life in general.
Yeah, I think so. And I do a little bit of work with the Tigers now in the career development stuff, and studying while the boys are playing, and life after footy stuff. And I think it's one of them things. Like, for me, it was daunting when I finished, but other than the actual whatever industry you go in, having that specific knowledge, you got so many transferable skills, leadership. None of the boys will be late for work, and everyone's a hard worker. There's so many transferable skills. A lot of the boys can communicate. They've been in a corporate setting, so to speak, from the age of 18, doing video every day and being on time. And there's so many transferable skills. And, it is daunting at first, but once you realize, hang on, I can go into industries and actually be a leader, because that's what I was. If you know how to communicate with people and be a leader, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it's all transferable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you think, especially being able to talk to other people, being that leader, does I guess like the media training and all that sort of stuff that you go through, do you reckon that helps as well?
Yeah, I think so. These young guys are, under the pump. You're on national TV at the age of 20, and
yeah.
To the boys' credit, it's something that you got to learn. Like, you see young guys come into first grade and they might swear or something in their first interview, but that's all part of it. That's a learning curve. And, there's guys in the game, Daly Cherry Evans and guys like that. They're just really fluent. They speak really well, but that's built up from years of experience. And, in the real world, so to speak, that stands out. Like, not a lot of people can communicate anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very hard thing, like, I've got heaps of kids, and it's trying to get them to understand how to communicate with other people, especially going into the workforce, getting older, and communicating with their friends, because some friends don't like, for example, swearing all the time, or they're not brought up with that. So it's trying to get these people, my kids, for example, to understand that everyone's different. You got to communicate different ways to get your point across.
Yeah, absolutely. And you learn things as well, like listen to comprehend instead of listening to, respond.
Yep.
Things like that help you in life, with relationships and, doing deals on real estate, or, that whole comprehension thing is something that the boys learn. They get thrown, game sheets and all this sort of stuff that they've got to take in. That's just build up knowledge throughout the years. And you don't realize you're doing it, but you do it. And, listening is a very important tool to have.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely is, mate. Yeah. With your career, mate, you come in 2007 for Penrith. It would have been a hard slog coming in as a junior. Going through the system. I know you were Penrith born and raised. Is there anyone that you sort of through your childhood that helped influence you in life? Not just in footy, but in life, that you sort of are more grateful for now, looking back.
Yeah, mate, to be honest, I think when I first came into first grade, I was very lucky because 2007, it wasn't that distant from 2003, 2004, the glory days that I witnessed as a kid. And when you like look up to these guys, and, I just had this dream of winning a comp in a Penrith jersey. And then when all of a sudden, 3-4 years later, you're in the same dressing room as, Craig Gower, Tony Puletua, Frank Puletua, Joel Clinton, Luke Brittis, Luke Rooney, Luke Lewis, like you start looking around and has a huge influence on you. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit, these are the guys that I watched, raise a trophy, and I just had that goosebumps and feeling. So when I pulled on the Penrith jersey, as a 15-year-old kid and playing Harold Matts and that sort of stuff, that's what you aspire to be. You aspire to be, the Craig Gowers lifting the trophy and, all them guys. I'm sure there's guys I missed as well, but coming into first grade, mate, it was unreal. I had guys, like I said, Trent Waterhouse was a big influence on me. Joel Clinton was a huge influence on me. He sort of tucked me under his wing. That was sort of before he left and went to the Broncos. The Puletua boys were unbelievable, mate. They would come from the same junior club as me, and I think we're from different backgrounds and that sort of stuff, but we all speak the same language. You know what I mean? And mate, I'm very grateful for the men the group of men that I come in with. There's so many guys, I probably missed someone, but like I said, they were the guys that I aspired to be, and I was in the change room with them. And then sort of the following year, Petro come in, and to be honest, you said who influenced you as a man. Petro, he wouldn't pull you aside and say too much, but you'd do extras with him, and you'd see him interact with his wife Bonnie and the kids and that, and it's just, mate, he was a role model for me, and he probably didn't realize that I was learning the lesson just by watching him. The way he held himself, the way he'd speak to fans. It wouldn't matter if it was the CEO of the game or a young fan that sat around in the cold after going waiting for his autograph. He had time for everyone. He'd be the last to leave. It's just something that I picked up on, and I guess he had influence on me without knowing.
Yeah, one of those players that led by actions, not by words.
Yeah, and it had huge clout, because if he did say something, everyone dropped what they were doing and listened. So like the ultimate role model.
Yeah, and that's sort of especially for young guys coming up. I think that's the sort of person that you need around, is someone like that. That isn't gonna berate them and all that sort of stuff. So I guess someone, if you were doing something really stupid, I guess off field as well, you'd pull you aside and go, "Hey, mate," But to show someone by their actions, and he's not even deliberately doing it, but he's just being who he is. And young guys like yourself are looking up to him. That goes a hell of a way to influencing, like you're just saying, yourself or these other young guys that were coming through at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, to me, that's what culture of a club is. Like, say I'm a young kid and I learn off Petro, and then a young kid comes in and I've got the same habits and the same things, and I'm very diligent looking after my body and stretching and all the right nutrition, and then giving your time to fans, and that's how the culture is built. That's the standard, how they do things. And to be honest, I think Panthers have got it spot on now. They're just doing things great, and it's not just winning games. Like, I've been into Panthers a few times to catch up with Kevin Kingston and that sort of stuff, and the guys are that respectful. They know that you played at the club, and probably didn't have the success they've had, but they'll all stop and have a chat shake your hand, and mate, the culture there. You walk in the door and you can tell why they're winning games.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear because you are one of those guys that's played over 100 games for the club. So you might not have won a competition with them, but for them to still recognise you as you're part of that family, that culture, that's a really good thing to see and hear.
Yeah, and that's built from the top up. Matty Cameron and Ivan's done a great job. He's always had that culture, and to be honest, it's a laid back atmosphere. But when they're on, they're on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I bet they are. Your career, mate. We just touched on then. 2007, you make your debut for Penrith. You're there for 7 years, play 122 games for them. And then you move over to South for a year. And then from that year, because I was reading up that you signed a 4-year deal with them, and then you only spent a year there. We'll get into why a bit later, but you jump across to West, where you're currently working at the moment, and then you go back to Penrith as well to finish off your career. With being Penrith born and raised, all that sort of stuff, mate, how was it for you to be able to make your debut for that club?
Oh, mate, it was something that, like I said, with as a young kid, my team was Newcastle Knights because I loved Chief, and right. I sort of wanted to be like Paul Harrigan, man. He was lived and breathed and watch everything he did, but we would have family trips up to Newcastle Marathon Stadium, stand on the hill and watch Newcastle. That was our like holiday sort of thing when we were young. But I always had this thing that I didn't ever see myself pulling on a Newcastle jersey and representing Newcastle. I always had a thing. I'm a Penrith boy, and I used to always go to the games. Our playing junior footy in Panthers, everyone gets a free season pass. So, mate, all I remember is going to every Panthers game, and I don't know, I just seen like something. I thought that's who I want to be. That's how I want to represent where I come from, represent my family. I don't know. It sort of become tribal, and that was my tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been. You jump across the South in 2015, mate. Like I said, you signed a 4-year deal with them. If you don't mind me asking, mate, what happened there? How come you only spent the year there out of the 4-year deal?
Yeah, so I was, mate, I love my time at South, and I met a lot of great people. To be honest, I would have liked to have stayed longer and found my feet and been mentored by Madge. I think we spoke the same language. He was very hard and tough, and that's the way I trained. I probably wasn't the most skillful player, but I'd challenge myself to be the fittest and keep going the longest and be resilient and that sort of stuff. So I think that if I would have spent my time at South, Madge could have got the best out of me. I honestly think that, and I've got a lot of respect for Madge. But in saying that, there was a thing where I think South probably didn't manage their cap, didn't manage their cap. So Sam left the club, Sam Burgess left the club, and then when he was coming back, they sort of didn't have any room in the cap, so they started looking around, And for me, how do I put it? Like, who am I to not move on so Sam Burgess' contract couldn't get registered? You know what I mean? Like, he deserves that. I have a lot of respect for Sam and what he's done at the club and the whole family as well. The Burgess family are great people. I actually lived next door to George when I was at South. But that's his club, that's his tribe. Like I was saying, Panthers was my tribe, you know what I mean? Like, that's his tribe. Who am I to, I've come in sort of a blowing. I would have liked to have been a South Sydney 4 years plus, I would have loved to have stayed there, but who am I to stop a legend of the club like Sam Burgess from coming back? So we had the conversation, and mate, it all worked out. Like I said, I would have loved to have stayed at South, but Jason Taylor reached out, and I went to the Tigers, and at first, the Tigers were getting beaten up in the media. I feel like the media used the Tigers as a punching bag. I was a bit unsure, and I remember walking through the doors of Concord, and it's probably one of the worst gyms set up facility I've ever seen. It was very humble, but there was a fella on the door, and he was cooking the boys' lunch. Old Vince, and I shouldn't say old, he's not that old, but Vince, he was cooking the barbie, and then he gave me. He was the same guy, you know. I went upstairs and did what I had to do and signed the contract, and I come downstairs, and the guy that was on the barbie was also the gear guy, and he was also fixing stuff around the place. And to me, it felt like a family club, like a footy club, you know, like a junior footy club where you go and everyone's happy, but the cook is the gear guy, and he also fixes things. Like it's a can-do club, not a glamour club, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I don't know, I walked through the door and I felt like home, you know. I felt like, yeah, this is me. So, mate, I signed there and spent 3 years, and mate, I love the club and I love the people. When I think of the West Tigers, I think of the people straight away. And you know, it's been a tough road. It's been a journey, but I'm hoping that the glory days will come, because
yeah,
you know, I went to the game on Thursday night and been through a tough year, and you know, probably a tough decade, to be honest.
yeah,
But you roll into Bankwest Stadium, there's plenty of orange, you know, scarves and flags and jerseys. So, mate, when I think of the West Tigers, I think of the people. It gives me goosebumps now talking about it, because I've got this thing in my head that once you wake the sleeping giant, that club could be anything. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And they got a pretty good junior base as well, out in the
Oh,
western
mate,
suburbs.
yeah. If they can tap into that, you know, it goes from sort of, what would you say, maybe from Glebe right out to Bowral. That's the catchment for young kids, and there's probably not a lot of kids in the inner west that play junior rugby league like they do in the Group 6 comp.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of tough kids out there, and if the Tigers can tap into that and keep the guys and have that thing that I had when I was young of want to put on that jersey, and that's your tribe, mate. I think it's better days ahead. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, like you were saying, that when you first walked into West, there they were copying a battering in the media, you know, and it really hasn't stopped for a long time. You know, it's still going on today. You know, people are
Yeah,
whinging about the CEO and all this sort of stuff. You know,
yeah,
it's not an easy thing. You know what? I guess the management or whoever it was that was handling, I guess, the salary cap and the recruitment previously didn't do a good job. And everyone's trying to, like, Sheensy is trying to get back the cap in order. You know, he's done some really good off-season recruitment this last year. You
yeah,
know, they got some experience and decent freaking players there. You know, and then they
yeah,
also
yeah,
got some of those juniors coming through.
yeah.
Like I can't remember the fullback's name at the moment.
Dream Buller.
Yeah, yeah, and he's only just come back to rugby league. So you know
Yeah,
they got the talent there. Yeah, I think for me, like the West Tigers fans just need to stay loyal and passionate to their club, because
yeah,
the good times
and you
are
know
going to come.
what? I witness the fans. Like I sit back and observe the fans, and it's one thing saying, "Oh, stick loyal and the good times will come," but it's the same faces that when I was at the club in 2016. The same faces are there now. So
Yeah,
I don't think they have to be told or you know, encouraged. They're in it for the long run, and
yeah,
I'd really like to see. I don't know where it would be, maybe Concord or West Ashfield or something. I'd love to see the bus roll up one day with the trophy on board for them people.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that'd be amazing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely would be. You know, and because they've put in such a long, hard toil, you know, they haven't had the best results, you know, for a long time. You know, it was last year they won the Wooden Spoon. You
Yeah.
know, they're in contention with a couple other teams at the moment for the Wooden Spoon. But you know, I personally, because I watch a fair bit of the rugby league as much as I can when I'm home. Even when I'm at work, you know, I try to watch the games as much as I can, and the team isn't that bad. It's just the competition's so close, and some of the other teams are just a little bit better, that it's unfair. Not unfair, but it's making them look bad. You know,
Yeah.
the
But
players. And
yeah, that's a part of it, you know, like the Dream Bullers and the Junior Tupos, yeah, Talon de Silva, all these sort of guys, they're getting a dose of um, what would you say, adversity now. They're
Yeah,
going to get better from this. You know what I mean? And I look at them guys, and if we can keep the vultures away from them and let them build the club, and then throw some experience in the Dave Clemmers, and like, to be honest, we had most of, like, not most, a big chunk of our salary cap on the sideline on the weekend, and they were a group of young kids, and they were right up the Sharks. You know,
yeah,
if we didn't have that Tommy Talau, that non-try, I think if Tommy Talau, if that wasn't a knock on, we score that try, I think it's a different result.
yeah,
I was at the game, and I could feel the energy building. You know what I mean? And I was there with my partner, and she doesn't really know footy that much, you know, but when Doreen Buller gets the ball, or they put that little, Wakem puts that little kick in, and it's got a curl on it. We nearly got that try. Like,
yeah,
right, we're in. It's an exciting team, you know. But just little building blocks of lapse of concentration, or you know, we might need to work on our resilience a little bit. But once that comes, I think things will change.
yeah. And definitely, you know, the other thing that will help it too is getting Api Coruscant back. You know, he
Oh,
leads. You know, he's, as much as everyone thinks that Api Coruscant is not an important part of the team. You can see the difference he's made from leaving the Panthers, and you can see
yeah,
the difference that he makes since being at the Tigers. You know, it took him a little while at the start of the season to find his feet, but once he did, he started to make that huge impact that everyone's gone, oh crap, hang on, the Tigers are actually being competitive now.
yeah,
And, you know, he's out at the moment for, I don't know how many more weeks he's got left with that broken jaw, but,
mm,
you know, once they get him back, they can start to make a run again to
yeah,
sort of be, not, I guess, not in contention for finals, but get away from that wooden spoon, you know, and I think he'll
yeah,
bring that. You know, then you got the experience of Bateman, Isaiah Papali'i, and all these other guys. You know, Luke Brooks has been a whipping boy for that club for years. Like, he's
yeah.
copped so much, but he's had that resilience for years as well, because, you know, he's gone through all the tough times. You know,
Yeah,
when there was a whole bunch of rookies come through.
100%. There's none better in the game than Luke Brooks, in the aspect of cop and shit and rocking up. And people are blind. They just say, "Oh, Luke Brooks," and take the piss. Slow down, watch the game, and see what Luke Brooks does.
Yeah,
And he's an amazing footballer. And as a mate, I'm glad that he settled and he's made a decision to go elsewhere. And you know, I'd love to see him with the senior half. He hasn't had one.
yeah,
All the great halves, you know, Nath, Cleary at Panthers, he was always going to be special, right? But he had a foil in James Maloney to learn off, you know, and
yeah,
Jimmy took a lot of heat. And I guess when the game was on the line, Jimmy would get the ball and ice the game. And like we said before, that's a culture thing. You learn that, right? And Nath he thrives on it now. If the game's in the balance, you give it to Nath and he just sorts it out. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
that's a learned thing. He had someone to do that. Brooksy unfortunately hasn't had that. He's been the main man the whole time. I would have liked to have seen, you know, like a Kieran Foran or someone like that come to the club, and Brooksy just be the second half. You know, not the marquee half, just
yeah,
the guy that can go about his business. And then I think the story would have been different. But I can't wait to see a happy Luke Brooks, because, as I said, like, I was a Newcastle fan as a kid, and he reminds me a lot of Joey, the same sort of body type. He's not scared to hit people.
yeah,
You know, I think he's as good as any half that I've played with. I've been lucky to play with some good ones, you know. So
yeah.
yeah, we'll watch him go, see him go next year. I wish that he was still at the Tigers, but like I said, as a mate, I'm excited for what he's got ahead.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Absolutely. I can't wait to see him there. You know, just learning a bit more off Daly Sherry Evans, and that pressure just gets released off him. But
Yeah,
you know, I think he'll do well. I think it would be better for his experience, and who knows, he may come back at the end of his career and you know, learn something from it and come back to the Tigers and, you know, want to retire there. So
yeah.
who
See how he
knows?
goes.
Um, but yeah, we'll jump back into your career, right? So jump from West over back to Penrith. You don't play many games. You only play about 7 games there, and then you do your PEC, and season ended your season, and then you were just. How did you feel like? From what I was reading, it's like you've just gone. You know what? I think my body's telling me it's enough. Was that the case?
It was a bit of that, but to be honest, it was. I felt that I had a really, really good off season. I trained really hard, and I didn't start the season. I was playing a bit of reserve grade, and I was working my ass off. And we went for a bit of a hard time. And I remember I was 18th man on the Gold Coast, and Ivan come up to me as, "You'll be in next week." And mate, it was like making my debut again. It was so exciting. I remember my first game back at Penrith, we played at Shark Park, and Jimmy Maloney put me through this beautiful, nice hole, and I scored a try first touch. So, mate, it was like a dream come true again. But I tore my pec, and there was a situation where we needed a hooker, and there was a young kid coming through, Mitch Kenny. He's a great young kid, and he was training really hard, and he was outside the 30. So the only way Mitch could play is if we had dispensation, and I was going to be out. I probably could have played the last 5 or 6 games if I rehabbed and come back. In my mind, I was like, should I do it and reach 200 games in the club? And all these things were going through my head. But I thought, you know what, the right thing to do here is give my spot to Mitch Kenny coming through and fast track his development, sort of thing, give him the opportunity. And he deserved that. He trained really hard during the off season. He's such a respectful guy, and I just made the decision to pull the pin so then he could get elevated into the top 30. And I could have rehabbed my pec in that. Like, it wasn't that big of a drama, but I had a few things in the pipeline to go elsewhere. But I thought, you know what, before that I really looked after my body. I hadn't had surgery for 10 years, so
yeah, right.
I sort of had this thing in my head, like, get out while you can. My knees are fine, ankles are fine. My body's pretty good. So get out when you can and sail off into the sunset, so to speak. And I finished in a Penrith jersey, and that was it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, and that just shows that the type of person that you are, mate. You're not looking out for yourself. Like you said, you could have gone to 200 games, could have come back that season and finished the season off at least, or continue with your career. But you sacrificed your career for the young bloke coming through and the team, because you recognise that they needed him. So, hats off to you, mate, because there's not a lot of people that would do that these days. Not just in footy, but
to be honest, it wasn't really a dramatic thing, like I gave up my career or anything like that. But I do really care about the club, and I think that fast tracking Mitch Kenny would help the club. And that was, like I said, that was my junior club. So the right thing to do was not just by Mitch, but for the club, was to move on. So I did it.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. You go during your career, mate. You play 4 games for City, in the City versus Country Origin.
Yeah.
We no longer play that, unfortunately. Which I grew up in the 90s, mate. So I used to love watching the City versus Country. It was great concept. And then you get picked from that. You get picked for a couple of games of Origin, mate. Do you remember getting the call up for Origin, and how did it make you feel?
Yeah, I remember it really well. I actually missed the call. Sticky rang me and I missed the call, so I called him back. He goes, "Mate, I'm actually just about to go into the team announcement meeting. You're in the team and you're starting. I'll give you a call back." And that was it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, mate, to be honest, it was great. Don't get me wrong, it was great to call my mum and tell her. And as kids, Origin was everything. We'd sit around the TV, and like I said, I loved Paul Harrigan, and we just wanted to see like fights and that sort of stuff. That was Origin, right?
Yeah.
But I got a call from Gus, and I don't know. When you're a young kid, Gus Gould's like God, right? Like, so to get a call from Gus to congratulate me and tell me that I'm ready, that was an amazing part of the whole Origin thing. You know what I mean? And one of the greatest things as well is I love at the start of Origin, you know, when you introduce yourself and you say your junior club. That was being able to do that, and the filming, going into camp and being able to film that was pretty special as well.
Yeah, wicked. That would have been so cool. You know,
Yeah,
bit of a tribute to that club that you played for as a kid. That would have been so cool. And I bet
yeah, it's cool, man.
I bet you all these little kids that were playing for that club at the time were like, oh my God, he come from our club. Oh wow, and it gives that
Yeah,
inspiration for those kids to, hey, he came from our club. He made it to State of Origin. We can do it too.
yeah, and you know what? It's been a great club. St Mary's is a great club. Eddie, it's still got a lot of boys from there. You know, Jerome Luai and guys like that. It's still producing first graders.
Yeah. Yeah, well, my parents grew up in that area as when they were kids. They grew up in
Yeah, right.
St Mary's, Mount Druitt area. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. My dad used to play schoolboy footy over there. So yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. Um, with your career, mate, you probably would have gone through some really bad times. And mental health being a big thing in rugby league and in life these days, mate. Have you ever gone through a low point in your life? And if so, how did you get through it?
Yeah, mate. To be honest, I don't like. It wasn't as big. It wasn't as known when I was coming through as it is now. I sort of don't, and you know, it's subjective, but I don't really believe in like depression and that sort of stuff. I don't really. I think every single day, when you talk about mental health, I think of the continuum. Have you seen the mental health continuum? It's a bit like a
No.
traffic light. So it goes from green, fades into amber, then fades into red. I think that is, we all go through that at certain points, and it might change hourly. It might change, like we're having this conversation now and you get a phone call and that continuum for you changes. So I think learning skills along the way on how to shift it back into the green.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. And that's sort of along the lines of what I'm doing now in the wellbeing space. And we're actually trying to start a sort of awareness and that sort of stuff into the mining industry. I work in the mines 3 nights a week. That was my soft landing from footy. And I see a lot of parallels with the guys I work with now and footy players. And after, studying, elite athlete wellbeing, I think I can incorporate that into the mining industry. And I think there's a massive need for it. So we're actually starting a bit of a program now. And my business partner is actually in Perth. And we're just trying to get some access to mining companies now and sort of pitch our idea along the lines of the similar model to what the NRL use. And that's, hand on my heart, that's the leading, I don't like to call it about mental health now, like that's the leading wellbeing program in elite sport. I just got back from New York and we spent some time with the NFL and Major League Baseball, NBA, Major League Soccer, and they're doing similar stuff, but the NRL are doing it best. And that's massive credit to the NRL and also the RLPA. They manage that as well. Yep. So, mate, I'm actually at the moment I'm trying to incorporate that and give some guys in the mines just some little tips around how to shift that mental health continuum. I don't like to talk about depression and that sort of stuff. Everyone sits somewhere on that continuum, and giving people the tools to shift it back to the green. And that's what I believe in. That's what's important to me. And it's just daily things, like, are you sleeping? Are you eating right? How's your relationship with your missus, kids, whoever has impact on your life? Do you show gratitude? Just simple things that we sort of brush over because everything gets so busy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I work FIFO as well. So
all right,
yeah. So I mean, after this interview, mate, I'll finish recording. We can have a chat about that if you want.
Yeah,
See
that'd
if
be
we can
awesome.
organise something. But that's really cool to see that you're involved in that sort of stuff. You do obviously do that stuff for the West Tigers, but you're trying to get into the mining industry. And the mining industry, I know personally as well. There's so many stories about how many people commit suicide because of stuff that goes on while they're away from their family or their partners are playing around, and it's so much stuff that goes along. You're
Yeah,
being away from your family, it sucks,
yeah,
but
$100.
you don't do it for any other reason but to help your family get further in life or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So that sort of stuff, it does play on a lot of guys' minds. I've had a couple of mates out at the side I'm at now. They have lost people in their family. A father. They lost. Guy lost his father. All this sort of stuff. It's hard. It's hard on these guys.
100%. And you know what? These guys haven't got programs where psychologists and all these people have developed and millions of dollars have been spent on it like the NRL. But I feel like I've learned a lot along my journey, and I feel like I can turn the conversation from the psychologists and that sort of stuff into mining terms and the blue collar worker terms. And I don't know if it'll kick off or anything, but I feel like a duty that my two worlds have collided, and I'm going to try to give back and get into that space. And mate, if it changes one person, it's a job done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's it. That's all it takes is just one person to feel that effect, and and hopefully it transfers on to the next person, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, no, well done on that, mate. That's a great initiative. Just want to jump onto the 18th team coming up. We've seen with the Dolphins this year, in the last couple of years, sorry, they've had a bit of a struggle signing players.
Yep.
Perth obviously trying to get it the 18th license. Being over in Sydney, mate, you would have heard, Perth has been talking to North Sydney Bears, and then even Newtown Jets have thrown their name in the hat to join with Perth as well. Would you like to see a Perth-based team back in the comp? And if so, how would you like it to be? Would it be just a Perth-based team, or would it be, joined with one of those Sydney clubs?
I'm not sure, along with like a Sydney club or something like that. I'm not sure commercially what the setup would be. But in saying that, I'd love a team in Perth, just because I think it fills a void with time zones and that sort of stuff. We get to see more footy, and with that comes all the other stuff, the TV rights, online gambling now, like it opens the door for a lot of that commercially.
Yep.
But if we're going to be a nation, if it's going to be National Rugby League, you have to go over there, I think we're kidding ourselves if we don't. I think the AFL do a good job in that space.
Yep.
And I'm not sure the demographic over there, to be honest, but I played a game for Souths over there, and mate, I loved it. It was unreal. Perth's a great spot. I know they've tried it once before, and I don't know if it was done right or what, but I think it might take time. I don't think we've got enough talent for 18 teams just yet.
Yep.
And I think COVID slowed that down a little bit, if I'm being honest. Like the young guys not playing. So, one, I think we need more talent in the pool to produce an 18th team. Like you said, the Dolphins struggled a little bit, and if you go through their roster, they've got a mix of older guys that are probably on the back end of their contract, back end of their career, but they've got Wayne Bennett too, right? So that helps.
Yeah, it definitely does.
But I think the NRL have a duty of care as well. I don't know if they should do what they did with the Titans and have not an open salary cap, but have a salary cap dispensation or something like that. But they're talking about a team in Papua New Guinea and that sort of stuff. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure where they would be based. I don't know about safety and that sort of stuff. I don't know if I'd want to move to PNG and start playing anytime soon. You know, I went over there and I loved it. I love the people. The people are amazing, but you sort of get killed with kindness over there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to base it out of Cairns, and then what do we need another Queensland team? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a strong argument for another team, for Perth to have a team once again.
Yeah. Well, like, there's the Papua New Guinea team. I've got a couple of guys I've worked with out in the mines. They're from PNG. They said there's a lot of things that wouldn't work over there. One, the safety of the players. The other thing too is they go, if there's a PNG team, you can't base it in Australia because what's the point?
That's right.
There's no point.
Another team
It's
in
just
Queensland,
not
right?
exactly. You may as well call them the Cairns Crocodiles or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Instead of being a PNG team, you just import the players from PNG.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a hard thing to do. I know they've talked about the Pacifico Islands having a combination of Pacifico Island teams. I don't think the infrastructure over there has been set up properly yet for that to work.
Yeah.
I know the NRL's talked about a second team in New Zealand. I've talked to a few of the Kiwi boys and they said there's no way it would work. They haven't done enough development over there. I've lived over there as well, and I've seen it firsthand. Outside of Hamilton and Auckland, no one gives a crap about rugby league.
Yeah.
It's all union, because everyone wants to be an All Black.
That's right. Yeah, and I think the Warriors are doing a great job.
Yeah.
Promoting the game, and I would have liked to have seen the Warriors play every game home game this year, just to say thanks. Even if you wanted to grow the game a little bit, right? The Warriors play in New Zealand, but they can travel throughout New Zealand. We played a trial once in Hamilton. That was cool. They could play in Christchurch. They could spread the game like that. But I believe that the Warriors deserve. I think they're doing a good job, and probably don't need a second team over there. And also, I think the NRL are in debt to them, so I think they should have played every game at home, to be honest. And that would have been a way to promote the game over there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they deserve that as well. I think the other thing that it hinders the New Zealand team is that the Warriors, especially the fans over there, because the Warriors haven't had sustained success, the Warriors fans are sort of jump on the bandwagon at times. Like when they're going good, they're on. But then when they turn bad, they're just like a typical Warriors, and it's they just go back to watching Union. So it's one of those hard things. Like for me, with Perth joining one of the Sydney-based teams, I know the North Sydney Bears was being the main one that everyone's been talking about. I do think it's a good idea because I know that they only wanted a couple of games at North Sydney Oval a year. And they just wanted, the main one was against Manly. They're obviously arch rivals. But for me, it gives us young players and from the women to the men a pathway system, which we don't really have at the moment. We haven't they haven't set that up like they had before. So it gives them a pathway into the New South Wales Cup, the Harvey Norman Women's Series, all that sort of stuff. But it also too gives North Sydney bigger talent pool to pick from.
Yep.
Increases their talent, that squad they can pick from. But it also the other thing too is it gives the Perth team a New South Wales Eastern Seaboard supporter base.
Yeah.
It's because they'll be Bear supporters, not just a Perth supporter.
Yeah, well, you get that. Dolphins had to start from scratch, and they've done a great job. But there's a lot of old school Bears supporters that would jump back in.
Yeah, exactly. So it gives them that that Eastern Seaboard supporter base. So when they do play a game in, CommBank Stadium or anything like that, there's guys there with North Sydney Bears jerseys on supporting the Perth team.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I think it's a good idea. I just obviously I'm not in. Don't have the details of how it all going to work, but I reckon it would be a good idea.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, we can't what would you say? Can't be confused. Rugby league now is a business, and if whatever's commercially best is best, because it's great if we got the Bears back in that, but if it's not going to be sustained, why bother? Like, what I mean? So it's got to be commercially viable, and I think that's the foundation for anything now. It's elite sport. It's a business.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing is, they need to have the right backing. Behind it. They need to make sure that all the monetary side of things is covered. So, the team is going to be a success and not going to go bankrupt.
That's right, 100%.
But yeah, like I said to you before, mate, I've got heaps of kids in this house. I've got 10 of them. I've got 6 of them that play league.
Yep.
I've got my young daughter, she's plays under sixes, and then I've got my 17-year-old boy plays third grade over here. Yeah, I've got a couple of ages in between. So,
well, are they all your kids?
I've got step kids as well, but I consider them mine.
I was going to say.
Okay,
now what do you do?
The last 7 years. Yeah,
right, there's a lot of big pots of bolognese going on there, mate.
Yeah. Well, I've been raising them for the last 7 years. That's why I work away.
Yeah. How do you feed everyone?
Yeah, it's hard, but that's the reason I work away. But like, have you got any advice for these kids? Whether they want to be a professional sports player, a doctor, whatever it is. Have you got any advice for them?
Yeah, I think my advice would be find out what you want to do first, what you're passionate about. And I think that's a process of elimination. Ask questions, dabble into something. If you think you might want to be, I don't know, a doctor, there's so much information now for free on. All you got to do is Google, how do you become a doctor? What's the pros and cons of a doctor? Like, ask as many questions as you can and dive into it. And then once you find your passion, just go all in, man. Like, you just got to focus in on what you want to do. And I believe anything now is achievable. With technology and that, you don't have to be the smartest in the room, but I think if you chip away at something, there's so many avenues there for different ways of learning and that sort of stuff. So narrow focus in on what you want to do and just put everything into it. Because I think along the journey, say for instance, you want to be a doctor, but you're probably just not quite there. If you do all the hard work, then you can venture off onto something else, and you might find your passion there. It might be physiotherapy, it might be something else, whatever. But it's, I think, just shoot for the stars. You know what I mean, so to speak. And if it doesn't work out, you'll still find something. Because you've put effort into it. You've shown what you can do. And along the journey, there's an old saying: your network is your net worth, and you'll meet people, and you'll find your passion and find your path. I don't think anyone's ever gone backwards for putting their best effort in. Just have a crack, and what's the worst that can happen?
Absolutely. And you're absolutely correct, mate. What was the worst that was going to happen with you, if you didn't have a crack at rugby league? It's just one of those things. You've got to put your best foot forward. That's what I say to my kids all the time. And I was coaching a couple of teams last year, and that's all I said to my kids was that I coach was, I don't care about the results. It's about the effort. As long as you're putting effort in, 100% effort, who cares? The results will come. You just got to put that effort in, And
you know what, fun too. Like, if you're a young kid and you started playing footy, but then all of a sudden, it starts to get a bit serious, 16, 17, and you lose the fun for it. That's great. Go find your fun thing. Like, you don't have to play footy because dad wants you to, or like, I think the catalyst for everything is fun, like enjoyment. Even work and that. Like, if you hate your job, all right, man, that's hard. Like, if you're dreading, if Sunday Arvo, you're dreading Monday, go find your thing, man.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right, mate. And that's what I tell my kids. It's you got to put the hard work in, but you'll reap rewards later, and you just got to find something that you enjoy, because that's like that old saying: if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, that's right, 100%.
You know, so yeah, that's why we try to teach our kids, but whether they listen
Yeah,
is another question.
yeah.
um, we just going back to your career, bud. Is there, when you look back on your career, is there anything that you've taken, or not taken, but anything that you look back on and that you've gone, wow, like I've got to accomplish, you know, like something that stands out for you?
Yeah. Oh, so many great things, man. But to be honest, like I look back at the guys that I had the opportunity to play alongside of, and like if I wrote them on a piece of paper, it'll blow your mind, right? So, bro, like I'm just super grateful that I got to play alongside so many great players, and I still pinch myself that I got to do that. You know, like
Yeah,
it was amazing. Like you name someone, and I probably, within the greats of the game in the last sort of 10, 15 years, I would have played alongside a lot of them, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
a lot of guys from, I got the opportunity to play with guys from New South Wales, club footy. I got to play with like Greggy Inglis, and then I got to play All Stars, Cameron Smith. Just so many, like, it's mind blowing, man. And
yeah,
I had the conversation. We were having a beer, and I said to Dylan Edwards, I was like, I got to play with so many great fullbacks, and I can't split them, you know what I mean? And he's one of them, like I got to play
yeah,
with Greggy, I played with Hainsey, Reese Wesser, like so many great fullbacks. And if I had a team, I wouldn't swap too many of them for Dylan Edwards, you know what I mean? So I've had that conversation, and I had the conversation with Luke Brooks as well. I was, I said I got to play with Adam Reynolds, Nath Cleary, who else did I play with? Jimmy Maloney,
and Craig Gower.
Craig Gower, Mitch Moses, Piercy, all these amazing, Todd Carney, all these amazing halfbacks, and Brooksy's up there with them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So answering the question, I'm just super grateful. I pinch myself that I got to share the field with these guys.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. That's so cool to hear. Well, that's honestly, man, that's all the questions I've got for you, mate. Just if you're ever in Perth, don't hesitate, give me a call. We'll catch up for a beer or coffee
that'd
or
be
whatever.
great, mate. I'm actually I'm planning on spending some time over there. Like I said, I've got my business partner. He's actually the wellbeing manager at the WAIS now. He actually flew over yesterday. He literally started yesterday. Not started, but he moved there yesterday.
Yeah, right.
And we're trying to get into the mining industry. We've got a program, and don't quote this, but it's pretty much copy paste the NRL standard,
Yep.
And that's, like I said, that's the world leader in elite sport. And I think if we can incorporate that on a smaller scale, like you do fly in, fly out, you don't have to be an athlete, but if we can get you sleeping a little bit better, and while you're away, have better conversations with your missus and your kids, and just little things, man, like self-care. Like when you're away, you probably don't eat great. You probably, you half-assed. You might have a bit of a beard or your haircut and that. Like just little self-cares to make you feel good. Like instead of having your 6 beers of a night, how about take a handful of melatonin and have a good night's sleep? Like just little things. And we're not going to sit here and say, don't have beers, boys, don't do this, don't do that. You got to be an elite athlete. Like something along the lines of 70-30, like 70% you look after yourself and your body. And if you've had good sleep while you're away on your swing, and you come home and you can play with your kids and you're not grumpy and that sort of stuff, like that's well-being, man. That's we get caught up, and I'm not just saying it's blokes as well, but we get caught up of providing for your family and that sort of stuff. But you come home and you're fucking grumpy, you know what I mean? Like, it's great. It's great. You've filled their tummies and you put a roof over their head while you're away, but they want that. They've missed that. They want to play with you. They want to. Your missus wants a bit of a relationship. Your health, and so that's what we're just trying to educate the guys on. And like I said, just for better terms, like layman terms, like I could sit here and talk about biopsychosocial models and all this bullshit. But at the end of the day, all that means is who you are, where you are, what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So just cut the bullshit, break it down, and if we can get you while you're on your swing in the mines, thinking of that 70-30 model of being a little bit better, and I've got some ideas around. I'm not sure if you guys do it, like vending machines with PPE in it. Do you do that? Or you just grab it?
Yeah, just grab it. Yeah, just grab it out. Yeah.
In our pit, you got like a Pegasus swipe card, and you got vending machine with PPE, glasses, filters, all that shit. Like, you don't pay for it. But before shift, we had a sachet full of, like multivitamins, guarana, like whatever to make you feel good. And then at the end of the shift, you've got one to sleep, like a bit of melatonin, magnesium, another multivitamin, like just thinking about it. And, I think everyone wins. Like if you're performing better at work, and it makes it easier. Like we've all went to work off 4 hours sleep, right? When you're in the mines and that.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare, eh? It's dangerous. Fatigue is number one factor with risk. I believe anyway.
Yeah, especially out in the mines, mate. You're working 12 hours. Like, I'm out
Are
there.
you underground or
no,
surface?
above ground?
Yeah.
So I'm a tie fitter.
All right.
Yeah. So, and it's like you're out there. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Our hours are 5 till 5.
Yeah.
So and when I get back to my room, I'm 7:30. I'm out. So
that's what we do as well, man. Like we do 5:30 to 5:30, and I'm lucky I'm only on 3 days, and I drive in, drive out. So but I'm with you, mate. When I get home, like I do night shift, and I used to stay down there. And it was sort of getting to me a bit, like waking up in a pub room and that. But when I get home, I literally kick my missus out of the bed, sleep for 6 hours, wake up, feed, drive back to work. That's me for 3 days, man. Like, it's fucking hard, right? But I do practice what I preach and try and be the best I can be. Might be have a sauna and an ice bath, or I sort of look after my body like I was still playing. Even a 20-minute sweat might give you a bit of energy before your work. Or
that's it, isn't it? Get up and go for a bit of a walk around the camp, or if you don't have to go to the gym, but if you want to go to the gym, go do a workout. Either before or after work. That's just get the body going. Get yourself out of that mindset of being at work. I find that.
It can even be something like before work, you get that dopamine hit by doing what we're doing now, but with your kids, right? Have a quick Skype and reiterate your purpose. Just stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you wake up, I've had 4 hours sleep. I'm starting to go in the orange year on my mental health continuum. But you know what? I just spoke to the kids and they're smiling, they're happy, and everything's good. That's why I'm here. That slide changes slightly, but that might get you through your 12-hour shift.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. What I'll do is I'll end the recording, mate, and then you and me will have a bit of a chat after. So bear with me one sec. We'll just.
Yeah, sure. You're right, mate.
Yeah. So Tim Grant, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA. I really appreciate you giving me your time, bud.
Thank you.
Thank you.